Chair recognizes the gentleman from Washington State, Mr. Inslee.
Thank you. It is Earth Day tomorrow, but I want to point out this is not just a green bill one way, it's a green bill two ways. It is not just about decreasing pollution, it is about increasing jobs. And with this bill, we are on the launching pad for the single most ambitious, the single most promising job creation program since the launch of the Apollo project under the leadership of John F. Kennedy. And I think we ought to approach this with three basic American attributes. The first being confidence. And I just want to share some reasons why I'm confident that we will fulfill America's destiny of being the clean energy arsenal to the world. Last week I was at home for a couple weeks, and I just want to share some of the people that I talked to in 1 week. I talked to the people at the Sapphire Energy Company, which just announced yesterday that they intend to have an algae-based biodiesel, biofuels, zero CO2 emission, up and running by 2011 at twice the levels that they originally predicted, using only sunlight and salt water and no feedstock. I talked to the A123 battery company that is ready to manufacture a lithium-ion domestically produced battery to drive American-produced electric cars. We ought to have confidence. We are not going to allow China to dominate the world economy in electric cars and lithium-ion batteries. This bill is going to make sure that that industry stays here. I talked to the Infinia company in the Tri-Cities, Washington, which has a Stirling solar-powered engine, which is now selling well in Spain, and we want to start it selling well here, and this bill will make sure that that happens. I talked to the Ramgen company. A lot of people have talked to coal about the need to sequester coal CO2. We have a technology at the Ramgen company that leads the world in the ability to compress CO2 so we can bury it permanently and create jobs in this country. I talked to the Ultrarock company, which is one of the world's leading companies to do engineered geothermal, which we can do perhaps in 50% of the United States. The list goes on and on and on. But what these Americans need is a policy jumpstart so that these jobs get created in America. And fundamentally, this is what this bill does. So we ought to have confidence. Second, we ought to act as a union, recognize the very disparate nature of our country. And I'm very pleased to be working with Mike Doyle to have, and I appreciate Chairman Waxman and Mr. Markey's including our provision that will prevent job leakage and not give an advantage to our international competitors by in fact giving some free permits to domestic high energy intensive industry. It is the right thing to do, and it is our answer to the international situation. But further, I want to mention one thing that I hope we will address as we go forward in the bill. To truly act as a union, we have to unify the electrical grid system of the United States. If you look at the map that Mr. Gordon put up about the disparate access to very renewable sources, we have to have a grid system that is fitting for this century. And I hope that we will find a solution to site these grid systems and finance these grid systems. It is both necessary and possible to do so. Can you imagine what the interstate freeway system would have looked like if we just did it county by county? We need to have a backstop so that Uncle Sam can help out local communities site these systems. The third thing we need to do in this bill is be smart. And I want to mention a couple things in that regard. The smartest thing we can do is to learn from the lessons of Europe. Europe essentially used a cap-and-trade system that we invented here to deal with sulfur dioxide, and it's been extremely successful in our American experience. We've tamed sulfur dioxide at probably half the cost that was originally anticipated. I believe there's a possibility to do the same with carbon dioxide. But there's some lessons from Europe. I just want to mention one of them. When they started the cap-and-trade system in Europe, they gave away all the permits. And the reason they did that is it created less controversy to simply give away the permits. And it was a spectacular disaster when they did that, because it ended up consumers bore the cost rather than utilities of the cost of this program. And there were scandals galore in Europe about that. And they did not achieve in the first few years of their program what they wanted, because they gave away the permits and did not create an incentive to go to low carbon fuels. We ought to be like the guy who putts second. You always follow the putt of the guy who went first. And we ought to learn from the lessons of Europe and have a more reasonable disposition of these permits. And when we do that, I want to make one important point here. This is going to be the largest recycling program in American history, because a huge amount of these dollars are going to be recycled right back to the American consumers to help with their utility bills. You can make sure we're going to grow jobs, help consumers, and get this job done. Thank you.
Great. We thank the gentleman.